Welcome to our deep dive into the world's economies. Today, we're exploring the top 15 countries with the lowest GDP in 2024, according to the International Monetary Fund's World Economic Outlook. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, talking about GDP is about as exciting as watching paint dry, especially when it's about tiny nations I probably couldn't even locate on a map, and you wouldn't be entirely wrong. But stick with me, because behind these numbers are stories of resilience, ingenuity, and the occasional cautionary tale of what happens when your main export is bird poop. That's right, we're going there. So buckle up as we journey to some of the most remote corners of the globe where the economies might be small, but the challenges and the spirit of the people are anything but. First up, we find ourselves in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where 9 coral atolls barely peak above the waves. This, my friends, is Tuvalu, a nation so small it could practically fit inside a thimble. If you could find a thimble big enough with a GDP that makes your bank account on payday look like Jeff Bezos' rainy day fund, Tuvalu takes the crown for the lowest GDP globally. Now, you might think that such a tiny economy would mean these folks are living like it's the Stone Age, and you'd be, well, partially right. See, Tuvalu relies heavily on its Polynesian roots, with most of its citizens engaged in subsistence farming and fishing. It's about as off the grid as a nation can get in the 21st century, with limited electricity and just one radio station for the entire country. But here's the kicker: Tuvaluans are also incredibly resourceful. They've perfected the art of making do with less, relying on strong community ties and remittances from relatives working abroad. Plus, they've got a unique economic ace up their sleeve: the TV domain name. Yep, every time you watch Netflix, there's a chance Tuvalu's getting a tiny cut. It's not much, but hey, every penny counts when you're an island nation battling rising sea levels. Next, we hop over to Nauru, another Pacific island nation with a GDP that's slightly larger than a breadcrumb. But here's the thing about Nauru: this tiny island was once rolling in it thanks to a substance you wouldn't expect to be a goldmine: bird poop. Yes, you heard that right. Nauru was once home to massive deposits of phosphate, a key ingredient in fertilizer, all thanks to centuries of seabird droppings. It was the economic envy of the Pacific, with a per capita income that rivaled some of the wealthiest nations. But then came the inevitable: the phosphate ran out, and like a trust fund baby who blew through their inheritance on solid gold yachts and diamond-encrusted dog collars, Nauru found itself in a bit of a pickle. The once lush landscape was stripped bare, leaving behind a barren, lunar-like terrain. The economy tanked, the obesity rate skyrocketed. Turns out, easy access to processed food isn't always a good thing. And Nauru became a cautionary tale of what happens when you put all your eggs in one very unsustainable basket. But hold on, because this story does have a bit of a plot twist. Remember all that mined-out phosphate? Well, it turns out there might be a way to extract even more of it using new technology. So Nauru is cautiously dipping its toes back into the bird poop business, though hopefully this time around they'll learn from their past mistakes. Because, let's be honest, no one wants to be known as the nation that literally mined itself into oblivion. Our next stop takes us to Palau, a nation comprised of over 340 islands, though let's be real, only a handful of those are big enough to matter. Now, Palau has a bit of a split personality. On one hand, it's a relative newcomer to the whole independence thing, only gaining full sovereignty from the US back in 1994. And let's just say old habits die hard. The US still heavily influences Palau's economy, with the American dollar being the official currency and the US military being a major employer. On the other hand, Palau is determined to forge its own path, and that path is paved with tourists. That's right, Palau is betting big on its stunning natural beauty, from its pristine beaches and coral reefs to its lush jungles and cascading waterfalls. And who can blame them? This place is basically Instagram heaven. The government has been busy promoting ecotourism, hoping to attract deep-pocketed travelers who are willing to pay top dollar to swim with jellyfish, explore ancient ruins, and maybe pretend they're on a deserted island, even though there's probably a 5-star resort just around the corner. Will it be enough to boost Palau's economy beyond adorable but struggling? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure: this tiny island nation is determined to make a splash. Chapter 4. Kiribati fishing for a future in a sea of challenges. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're heading to Kiribati, a nation so spread out across the Pacific Ocean. It makes the phrase far-flung seem like an understatement. Seriously, imagine a country with the landmass of New York City scattered across an area larger than India. That's Kiribati. And if you think finding parking in Manhattan is tough, try governing a nation where your islands are literally disappearing beneath the waves due to rising sea levels. But hey, let's not dwell on the whole impending climate apocalypse thing. Instead, let's focus on the fact that Kiribati is home to the largest exclusive economic zone in the world. That's right, this tiny nation controls a massive swathe of the Pacific Ocean, which is chock full of tuna, seaweed, and other marine goodies. So what's a cash-strapped nation to do? Fish, baby, fish. Kiribati is banking on its marine resources to stay afloat, literally and figuratively. They're working on sustainable fishing practices, developing their seaweed industry. Turns out seaweed is the kale of the sea, and even exploring the possibility of, wait for it, relocating their entire population to higher ground. Now that's what I call long-term planning. Chapter 5, Marshall Islands. From nuclear testing ground to more US dependence. Our next stop takes us to the Marshall Islands, a nation that's about as close as you can get to a real-life Atlantis. Except instead of being lost to a mythical flood, these islands were used as a testing ground for nuclear weapons. Yeah, not exactly the best look for a tropical paradise, but we'll get back to that later. Today, the Marshall Islands are still grappling with the legacy of those nuclear tests, both in terms of environmental damage and the health problems they caused. But amidst the challenges, there's a sense of resilience, a determination to move forward. The Marshallese people are known for their strong cultural traditions, their vibrant music and dance, and their ability to laugh in the face of adversity. Economically, the Marshall Islands are heavily reliant on, well, the United States. The US provides significant financial aid, leases land for a missile defense system because, we needed another one of those, and employs a good chunk of the population. It's a complicated relationship, to say the least, and one that raises questions about dependence and neocolonialism. But for now, the Marshall Islands are trying to make the best of a difficult situation, focusing on sustainable fishing, tourism, and maybe, just maybe, a future where they can finally break free from the shadow of the past. Chapter 6, Federated States of Micronesia, 600 Islands, One Big Economic Puzzle. Hold on to your dictionaries because we're about to enter a linguistic labyrinth known as the Federated States of Micronesia. This island nation is home to a mind-boggling array of languages and dialects, so many that even the most seasoned linguist would probably just throw their hands up in defeat. But hey, at least they'll be able to say I need a translator in about a dozen different ways. Economically, Micronesia is a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, they've got fishing and farming, the classic island combo. On the other hand, they're heavily reliant on US aid, which, as we've learned, can be both a blessing and a curse. The government is the biggest employer, which isn't exactly a recipe for a booming private sector. And let's just say the infrastructure could use a bit of work. Imagine trying to run a business when the power goes out every time a coconut falls on a power line. Not exactly ideal, but amidst the challenges, there are glimmers of hope. Micronesia is home to some of the most pristine marine environments on Earth, which could be a major draw for high-end tourism. They're also exploring renewable energy sources because even in paradise, relying on diesel generators gets old after a while. So will Micronesia be able to solve its economic puzzle? It'll take more than just a few extra pieces, but with its stunning natural beauty, its rich cultural heritage, and its people's resilience, this island nation just might surprise us. Aloha and welcome to Tonga, where the beaches are pristine, the Kava is flowing, and the monarchy is very much alive and well. This Polynesian archipelago is known for its laid-back vibe, its friendly locales, and the fact that, technically speaking, every Tongan male over the age of 16 is entitled to a plot of land. Now, before you pack your bags and start practicing your best I'm the king of the castle dance moves, let's just say there's a bit more to the story. See, while the Tongan monarchy might sound like a fairy tale, the reality is a bit more complicated. The majority of the land is still owned by the royal family, and the nobility leaving the average Tongan with, shall we say, limited real estate options. And while the country boasts fertile soil and a tropical climate perfect for growing crops like squash coconuts and bananas, most of that produce is consumed domestically. So where does that leave Tonga's economy? Well, they're trying to diversify beyond agriculture, with tourism being the obvious contender. But they've got some stiff competition in the South Pacific, and let's just say, come for the beaches, stay because you missed your flight back isn't exactly a winning tourism slogan. Still, Tonga is a resilient nation with a strong cultural identity and a whole lot of heart. Plus, they've got those blowholes that shoot seawater into the air like a pod of synchronized whales. And honestly, who needs a diversified economy when you've got that? Ahoy there, mateys, and welcome to Dominica, also known as the Nature Island, for reasons that will become abundantly clear the moment you lay eyes on its lush, mountainous terrain. Located in the heart of the Caribbean, Dominica is a nature lover's paradise, boasting everything from boiling lakes and cascading waterfalls to rainforests teeming with life and beaches that would make a postcard jealous. But here's the catch. Mother Nature can be a fickle mistress. Dominica sits smack dab in the middle of Hurricane Alley, and let's just say it's been on the receiving end of more than its fair share of tropical storms. These hurricanes have repeatedly devastated Dominica's economy, wiping out crops, destroying infrastructure, and making it pretty challenging to run a tourism industry when your island is constantly being pummeled by gale-force winds and torrential rain. Despite these challenges, Dominica is determined to rise above the storms, literally and figuratively. They're investing in hurricane-resistant infrastructure, promoting sustainable tourism, and diversifying their agricultural sector beyond bananas, which, as we've learned, are pretty susceptible to high winds. They're also banking on their natural beauty to attract eco-conscious travelers who are willing to pay a premium to experience Dominica's unspoiled wonders. Will it be enough to lift Dominica out of poverty? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, this island nation is no stranger to weathering a storm. Hola and welcome to Sao Tome and Principe, a two-island nation off the coast of Africa that looks like it was plucked straight out of a travel brochure and gently placed in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. We're talking pristine beaches, lush rainforests, towering volcanic peaks, and a laid-back vibe that would make a sloth look like it's hopped up on espresso. But beneath this idyllic facade lies a more complicated reality. Sao Tome and Principe is grappling with a host of economic challenges, from high unemployment and poverty to a lack of infrastructure and a heavy reliance on foreign aid. For decades, this tiny nation was a Portuguese colony, and let's just say the Portuguese weren't exactly known for their benevolent approach to colonialism. Since gaining independence in 1975, Sao Tome and Principe has been trying to find its economic footing. They've got some promising resources, including cocoa, chocolate, always a good sign, coffee, and a growing tourism industry. But they're also facing stiff competition from other cocoa and coffee producers, and let's be honest, when it comes to tourism, come for the beaches, stay because you can't afford the flight back isn't exactly a winning slogan. Still, Sao Tome and Principe is a nation with a rich history, a vibrant culture, and a whole lot of potential. And hey, if all else fails, they can always try to become the world's leading exporter of postcards. Talofa and welcome to Samoa, the heart of Polynesia, where the beaches are pristine, the coconuts are plentiful, and the locals are so friendly they'll probably invite you to a Kava ceremony before you even have a chance to unpack your bags. But don't let this idyllic setting fool you. Samoa has a complex history, one that's shaped its economy in ways that are both fascinating and, at times, heartbreaking. For centuries, Samoa was a collectivist society with a strong emphasis on community, family, and tradition. Then came the Europeans, who, as we've learned, have a bit of a knack for disrupting traditional ways of life. With them, they brought a cash-based economy, which, while not inherently bad, did lead to some, shall we say, unintended consequences. Fast forward to today, and Samoa is trying to find a balance between its collectivist roots and the demands of a globalized economy. They're banking on tourism, which, let's be honest, is a bit like selling ice to Eskimos when you consider how naturally stunning this place is. But they're also trying to preserve their cultural heritage, promote sustainable practices, and maybe just maybe, create an economic model that values people and the planet over profits. It's a tall order, but if any nation can pull it off, it's Samoa. Ahoy there, mateys, and welcome to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a string of islands in the Caribbean that are so idyllic they make even the most jaded traveller want to ditch their smartphone don a flower crown and spend the rest of their days sipping rum punch on the beach. But before you book your one-way ticket to paradise, let's dive into the economic realities of this island nation. First off, let's address the elephant in the room, or rather, the arrowroot in the ground. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is one of the world's leading producers of this starchy root vegetable, which is used in everything from biscuits and sauces to cosmetics and pharmaceuticals. Now, I know what you're thinking. Arrowroot, that's the best they've got. Well, hold your seahorses, because this island nation also boasts a thriving tourism industry, thanks to its pristine beaches, crystal clear waters and lush rainforests. Plus, they've got those iconic Tobago Cays, a cluster of uninhabited islands that are basically a real-life screensaver. So, while St. Vincent and the Grenadines might not be the economic powerhouse of the Caribbean, they've got a lot going for them. Natural beauty, a laid-back vibe, and a whole lot of arrowroot. And hey, in this economy, you've got to take what you can get. Ahoy there, mateys, and welcome to St. Kitts and Nevis, a two-island nation in the Caribbean that's about as close as you can get to a real-life pirate's paradise. Without all the scurvy and plundering, of course. Today, St. Kitts and Nevis is known for its luxury resorts, its pristine beaches, and its rather unique approach to economic development selling citizenship. But let's rewind a bit. For centuries, St. Kitts and Nevis was all about sugarcane. It's how these islands got their start, and for a long time it was their bread and butter. But as with all good things, the sugarcane boom eventually went bust. Faced with a declining sugar industry and a need to diversify their economy, St. Kitts and Nevis decided to get creative. They turned to tourism, of course, because, well, have you seen their beaches? But they also launched a rather controversial program that allows wealthy foreigners to essentially buy citizenship. Now, this citizenship by investment program has been both praised and criticized. On one hand, it's brought in much-needed revenue, which has helped to fund infrastructure projects, improve healthcare, and boost the economy. On the other hand, it's raised concerns about money laundering, tax evasion, and the ethics of essentially selling passports to the highest bidder. So, is St. Kitts and Nevis a model for other struggling nations, or a cautionary tale of what happens when you prioritize profit over principle? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, they've definitely got our attention. Welcome to Vanuatu, a Y-shaped archipelago in the South Pacific that's home to active volcanoes, lush rainforests, pristine beaches, and a culture so vibrant it could practically fuel a small sun. But beneath this idyllic facade lies a nation grappling with the challenges of economic development, climate change, and, well, the occasional volcanic eruption. Vanuatu's economy is heavily reliant on agriculture, with kava, beef, copra, timber, and cocoa being the main exports. Now, for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of trying kava, let me just say it's an acquired taste. Imagine drinking muddy water that makes your mouth go numb and your mind feel like it's floating on a cloud. It's not for everyone, but hey, to each their own. Beyond agriculture, Vanuatu is also trying to develop its tourism industry because, let's be honest, who wouldn't want to visit a place where you can hike up an active volcano, swim with dugongs, and then unwind with a relaxing kava ceremony? But Vanuatu is also on the front lines of climate change, facing rising sea levels, more frequent cyclones, and unpredictable weather patterns, all of which threaten its fragile economy. So can Vanuatu overcome these challenges and achieve economic stability? It's a question that keeps economists up at night. But one thing's for sure, this island nation is no stranger to overcoming adversity. Welcome to Grenada, the spice island of the Caribbean, where the air is thick with the aroma of nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves, and the beaches are so pristine they make even the most jaded traveller want to ditch their shoes and spend the rest of their days sipping rum punch under a palm tree. But beneath this idyllic facade lies a nation grappling with the challenges of economic dependence, climate change, and the ever-present shadow of its colonial past. Grenada's economy is heavily reliant on agriculture, particularly the export of spices like nutmeg, mace, cinnamon, and cloves. But as with many small island developing states, Grenada's economy is vulnerable to external shocks, such as fluctuations in global commodity prices, natural disasters, and of course, the ever unpredictable whims of the global tourism market. To reduce its dependence on agriculture, Grenada has been trying to diversify its economy by investing in tourism, offshore banking, and education. But progress has been slow, and Grenada remains heavily reliant on foreign aid and remittances from its diaspora. So, can Grenada break free from its economic dependence and achieve sustainable development? It's a question that only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this little island nation has a lot of fight in it. Welcome to Comoros, an archipelago nation off the coast of East Africa that's often overlooked, but definitely not without its charms. From its stunning beaches and lush rainforests to its vibrant culture and fascinating history, Comoros has a lot to offer intrepid travelers willing to venture off the beaten path. But like many island nations, Comoros faces its share of challenges, from poverty and unemployment to political instability and the ever-present threat of climate change. Comoros' economy is heavily reliant on agriculture, with vanilla, cloves and ylang-ylang being the main exports. But despite its agricultural potential, Comoros remains one of the poorest countries in the world, with high levels of unemployment, poverty and inequality. But amidst these challenges, there's a glimmer of hope. Comoros' economy is growing, albeit slowly, and the government is working to attract foreign investment and promote tourism. Plus, Comoros has something that many other nations can only dream of, a young and growing population. So while Comoros may face an uphill battle, there's reason to be optimistic about its future. As we look ahead to 2024, it's clear that while some countries face significant economic challenges, there is hope for growth and stability. From the tiny nation of Tuvalu, with its single bank and reliance on the DTV domain, to the Spice Islands of Grenada, grappling with the legacy of colonialism, these nations are finding innovative ways to navigate the global economy. Whether it's harnessing the power of the internet, embracing sustainable tourism, or diversifying their agricultural sectors, these countries are proving that size isn't everything. They're resilient, resourceful, and determined to build a brighter future for their people. And while they might need a little help along the way, whether it's from international organizations, foreign aid, or simply greater awareness of their unique challenges, their stories are a testament to the indomitable human spirit. Stay tuned for more insights into the global economy and how these nations are working towards a brighter future.